We'll give people a minute to get on and then we'll get started. Welcome everybody so far. It is a Thursday. I will be hosting the community open hour today. Janae is not feeling well, so poor Janae, we will wish her well and hope she gets some rest. March forward without her. It is nice and sunny today in Southern California. How is the weather in Portugal, Pedro?
Not that bad.
Nice.
A little rainy, but less cold.
Nice. Always interested to hear the weather in other parts of the world. Although I have to get better at talking about weather in Celsius. I'm terrible at that. I apologize. I should be better. I should work on that because, you know, it makes more sense. Well, we're a few minutes after the hour. I'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. Janae is out ill today, so I'll be standing in for her and hosting. And happy to have everyone here. And thank you for joining. We do have quite a bit to go over, and I'm sure we have lots of questions. So we'll go ahead and get started. We do have a full agenda, some general updates, and of course, release updates, packaging updates, lots of updates. We'll go over the working groups and the clinics and the SEPs and then turn it to question and answer. So some general updates, the SALT project branding. Not everything has been completely branded to the SALT project and using just SALT, but we are working on that. You've seen some major updates, I think, with the changes in the website and the social medias accounts, and we're working on those. I don't have a ton of visibility there. That's a lot more of Janae's wheelhouse, but we are working towards that. Some things that I don't believe are changing anytime soon, and we'll try to keep you guys informed if and when those things change. Are things like the URLs through GitHub, GitLab, and the repo landing page, of course, has changed, and archive has changed, and some of those other things have changed, but there are some things that aren't. So I just want to clarify that. If there's questions, please ask us. I think that we probably need to put together some details in a post on our new website and detail that out, and we're looking to do that so we can make that more transparent and clear. We are looking to do more virtual meetups. We have them scheduled for the third Wednesday of every month. And you can find those on our website under the events. And under the community website, you should see more coming. More that's coming is details about each working group, details about the clinic. We are looking to use an events plugin that's in progress right now so that we can figure out how to make that more visible and probably get away from that Outlook calendar. I'm still in progress of doing that, but I am looking at that. You will see the meeting notes there and the RSS feeds. So there are some things coming and some things that are already there. So that's kind of nice. We do want to mention that we have a Docs Jam coming up. We have some really specific things we're going to do in this Docs Jam. We are making an admin guide or a user guide that is going to be very new, and it has its own repo, and so everything can happen there, and that is actually really exciting. And Derek and Elisa have done a great job of getting that set up. That is going to be Wednesday, February 10th, Mountain Standard Time from 9 to 3. And I think I'll have more details I can send out with the notes on how to sign up for that. I think we're just saying, let us know in the channel in Slack via IRC, or you can send an email to docs@saltstack.com and let us know if you're interested in that. If I get the events plugin working before then, of course, we'll have people signed up, and I'll make that announcement as well. Any questions? Love to hear from you guys. So release updates. I hope that everybody did see the RSS feed for the security feed today that did go out, that we are having a CVE release delay until February 25th. That is due to a bug that we introduced that we found late in the release cycle. But we did find it, fortunately, and we need some time to work that out and then get the release out to everyone. I can't explain too much about what it is. I wish that I could, but I really think that that's not in anyone's best interest. So mom's the word. I am going to keep the aluminum release date as March 31st, but looking to move the RC date probably by a week. I'm going to have to announce that next week. I don't have that date today. But if we're going to release the CVE release on February 25th, it would be very difficult for us to also get an RC out that same day. So I'm looking to move that. I will have that date next week early, and we'll probably put that in many announcements. Still looking to do an RC and have that for several weeks. And we would like to make that more of a standard instead of squishing that time down and not doing release candidates and field testing. What we are going to do is look at descoping quite a bit of work out of that aluminum release cycle so that we can still hit that date. I'm looking at that with the team and trying to make calculated judgments, of course, working with leadership and product and Tom and all of those important people to make sure that we're getting things done, but of course want to hear from the community as well. There's a lot that has actually already been merged in. And so I think that we're doing well there, but I would love to hear from people if there's things that absolutely need to make it into that release. Any questions about that? Concerns?
So with the delay to the CVE being released and finding the issue without going into any details, obviously about this issue specifically, finding that quite late in the process, are you planning to perhaps do anything in terms of looking at why that wasn't caught earlier? And is there anything you think you could do perhaps in terms of reassuring the community after the fact that, you know, in future CVE situations that you will that we're not going to get to the point where it's a day before the release is meant to happen, before you actually realize there is a showstopper issue?
Sure, absolutely. And I think a lot of it, some of the things that we've been talking about that we haven't just yet implemented, like actually doing a full RC cycle, getting things more field tested, making Docker images available, maybe even get a lab set up so that people can help us to test if they don't have dev environments. And of course, we will share more root cause analysis as we get into the release, and we can share that information, more confidently.
I know that release rigor has been a hot topic the last couple of meetings as well. So there's been a lot of discussion around how to improve that, and it's just a matter of getting the time to do so. I think they've just kind of been bogged down by the fact that they've got to get the CVE handled and then a bug found before that. It is unfortunate that it occurred the day before, I agree, but better that it was caught the day before than released with the bug in it still.
Sure.
Absolutely. And we will do a retrospective, and I'd love to hear from people. I'm looking at creating a form for that so we can get some asynchronous communication prior to or even after, and understand from the community as well, because it's a great asset for us to hear from you, and then make some real action items that maybe we haven't thought of yet, or to propel the ones that we have thought of that we haven't put in place yet. That is unfortunately not been faster. And something that I can say, though, is that I am going to be able to focus my time more on release management. I've been doing probably more like 3 other things. and tried to do release management the whole time I've been here, and that seems to fall off. And I am going to be able to dedicate some time to that specifically and let go of some other responsibilities. And I think that will really help. I hope that it will, to have some dedicated time to do that. Unfortunately, that time hasn't come around just yet, but it's coming in the spring. And I hope to really, really focus on like, how are we doing releases, not just CVE releases, but all the releases, and where can we get better? How can we get faster? How can we make this more repeatable? How can we gain some confidence in our release cycles? So that's good news. So I don't have another updated picture here for you. I just say that February 25th is a question mark. I hope to have this out to people and make this better. I'll just kind of skip over this a little bit, but we are looking at cooling and code freeze happening around this time, the end of February and the beginning of March. So as we know those dates and firm those up next week, I will send out an updated slide and picture and get that in all the places so people have it.
I wonder if perhaps, since we haven't set up the cab yet, and I know that was Janae said that was more towards the end of this month. Getting that set up. I wonder if, while we're defining the responsibility of the cab, assisting with release testing and stuff like that might not be part of the responsibilities of that group, or something. I mean, obviously, there are only so many people who can approve PRs and stuff into SALT, but it does help to get a lot more eyes on it.
Absolutely. And I'll bring that up. I actually am hoping to spend some time just looking at that SEP and moving it forward this in the next 10 business days.
Sorry, quick question. You mentioned February 25th as were you saying that there was some flexibility in terms of the CVE release date, or were you referring to a different release in terms of the 25th?
I was referring to the release candidate for aluminum release.
Okay, so we can count on the 25th as being the new date for the CVE release?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for that question.
Another thing I wonder is how can SALT position itself to better utilize the community for testing RCs, betas, what have you, prior to releases, and actually report back with feedback. I think that would really help the release process if we could do something to involve the community with it more.
So something I've been working on and want to get to a point where it's just how we do things is, for the team out builds, we have semi-nightly builds. It's every other day if it passes the test. I want to get it so the normal old before team out ones also have nightly builds that are pushed to a repo that is just constant, that you can just get whatever version, whatever day, and test it on a continual basis. I think that would greatly help, because then we have an RC every other day.
Yeah, I think that would help a lot. I mean, we have a build pipeline over here at GoDaddy for effectively the same thing, building binaries of SALT with TMAT and then producing RPMs for our CentOS environments. Applying that to normal release means or more historic release means for SALT obviously would do well. I'm just wondering whether or not there's technical debt that would have to be tackled before implementing something like that for the older release style.
That's a really good question.
So yeah, we have to figure out how we do dependencies as well. I mean, throughout a release cycle, you only really have to update SALT itself, but before a release, you do want to add in any dependency updates as well. So yeah, it is a little different.
Yeah, it's definitely doable. I mean, obviously it's very easy to pull off with Docker and TMAT builds. I'm curious how that pipeline will work. I'd be interested in potentially working with you, Bryce.
Yeah.
We have a working group that's for lack of a better word, sort of paused. I guess I don't have another word for them. That is test and release, and I think it could be revived, and we could change the time or the date or whatever needs to happen, and we could really focus here on some of this stuff. I would love to do that and really get more from the community as we are testing and releasing. I think that's a good way to go. If you have other ideas, I'm open to that too, though.
Well, I wasn't aware you guys even had a working group for that, probably because it has been paused. Reviving that obviously will be pretty important, and then evangelizing the hell out of it to the community.
Yeah.
I wonder if it wouldn't be prudent to also poll the community for specific workloads or test cases.
Sure.
As I mean, you guys are SALT is a group of engineers, but SALT itself is used outside of the core group of engineers in ways that I don't think SALT Stack is really thought of before.
Absolutely, yes.
So getting that feedback for those kinds of corner cases and usage might also be good as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I think we say it in triage every time that we have it and we're together. And anytime I look at tickets all the way around, I think, oh, wow, I just never would have thought of this use case, and so it'd be great to get that into some testing suites and even to test that over and over again and to make it more of like the core of testing, I think would be awesome. And that's always changing, so that we have to be flexible in how we can also bring that in at all times and make that easier. And that's kind of the tech debt that I think of, is how do we make that easier to onboard something that's new. And I'm not sure. So I think I need community's help in where we have some gaps there.
Right. And to kind of tack on to Bryce's statement about producing daily builds of TMAT built binaries, we could make the test suite, obviously, a more extensive test suite to be ran against, for each one of those as well. And I know obviously the binaries go through testing. A more expensive or a more extensive testing suite, though, ran daily as well, would probably be really great.
I think going back to one of your points there, like one of the things that would be really, really useful, we've been talking about it and asking the community for a while in the community hours, when we do have a release out, when we have a release candidate, having people run through their use cases with the release candidate would be hugely helpful. I mean, just like building on Sage's point, like it's a not very well kept secret that a majority of the core team actually do not use SALT on a daily basis. Like, we're in the code, we focus on specific issues, like minute, like detailed issues of use cases, but like as far as using it, as far as like having like a set of states, the managed infrastructure, we are not the people that are doing that. The community is, and so we rely heavily on the testing of people using it in their environments to know when bugs happen. Unfortunately, like, we're at the point now where that testing is happening when we have a release and when people are trying to upgrade in the production environments. So like being able to know ahead of time, like, okay, this particular release is going to break this set of states or this functionality before we release would be hugely beneficial, like when we're going through that release candidate process.
Yeah.
And something we may want to think about too is also separating out like testing, sort of general testing, and then releases and things that we can do with releases. And then those two groups need to kind of come together, because I think there's a lot that has to do with just testing and how we're going to test like nightly builds and Tiamat and some of those other package tests and things like that. There's a lot that we can do there that may not necessarily be release focused. And so we may want to break that out a little bit. I think that would be a really good idea. And that could also bridge between releasing, when we start talking about like, oh, what is the communication that we put out when we have a release candidate that we didn't tell people, we haven't told people about, oh, here's some Docker images that you can use. And, even though it's probably a good idea to have your masters and minions on the same version, it is okay to test it without that. So if you can do that for this and go just test this on minions, please do. We'd love to hear about your feedback from that as well, because we probably aren't, testing in that way as much. And so there's some things there.
Yeah.
I agree. I think splitting the concern of release testing and testing as a whole is smart. It helps narrow the focus. One of the, I wonder if like potentially daily tests ran against binaries wouldn't benefit from potentially, like fuzz testing, stuff like that. Things that aren't really haven't really yet been introduced to the SALT code base, property testing, fuzz testing, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
We did have someone put in a feature request to add something along those lines. Yeah, fuzz testing with a specific project. The follow-up point I was going to make too is like we realize like a lot of people don't have a dedicated environment where they can run through, where it's like basically like a direct copy or like a scaled down copy of their production environments. So and we do have parts of SALT that have been contributed by the community for testing out states. We have Test Kitchen, we have SALT Check. So just being able to utilize those tools better and more efficiently, and actually using them would be hugely beneficial. And the ask there would be giving us or contributing in some manner sanitized versions of your states that we could have run on a daily basis or a semi-weekly basis, or even just like when we're ready to do an RC, just so we know, okay, this particular functionality works or doesn't work, is going to get broken in this RC.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that suggestion there too, Gareth. Is that's a piece that would be really cool to see. That test could actually involve spinning up an environment, executing a bunch of states with the latest masters and minions. Maybe even going as far as wanting to test things like orchestration and seeing, is this all executing as expected? Are we getting failed states? Are we getting these other things happening that normally, last week this passed with flying colors, and now this week this piece is failing. That would be really cool to see if I don't know if a working group dedicated, I don't know if that would be, was it the testing one that you said was paused, Sage? Or
yeah, we had a group that when we first started the working groups, that was test and release, and I think maybe they just bit off more than they could chew, because that's a big working group, and so we probably need to break it out into two, and one that's like testing and one that's more about like release and testing, and I think that would be really great, and I'm happy to look into that. I think that we've talked a lot about some of these other things, and I've been thinking about it as well, and would love to dive into our test suite as we've moved into PyTest as well, to really look at like what's a smoke test and what's an integration test, and how are we defining those things, and can we expose that more to the community? And then as we get information about specific use cases, if people can't test that in their own environments, well, could we put that into some sort of testing suite where we run that, and before a release or even daily? It would sort of depend on the use case, and I would love to see that and understand where those things fit and how we could bring that in a smooth way, easy, right? Where's my easy button?
Just to add to the discussion on having states be tested against SALT, I think that there's an opportunity to SALT already has dozens of formula repositories. Those don't really have a coherent testing strategy. Some have, it's really been down to the individual formula developer. Some of them are using some of them are using Test Kitchen. Some of them have that type of stuff in there, those type of files in their formulas. Some don't. Some are using InSpec. Some are using Test Infra. There's no coherent strategy there, just due to the nature of the fact that we have many different people developing the formulas. But it would, being that we already have a bunch of salt states already sort of, and use cases sort of covered there, that could be one, method of sort of gathering those use cases and providing some sort of automated testing for them.
That's a great point. I think that there's a working group that meets every other week, and they've had what's the word I want to use? I think they've had a little bit of lack of the core team's involvement just because they're meeting so often, but they need us to be there. Sorry about that. Squirrel duty from my dog, or maybe mailman, not sure. I'm really interested to be more involved as I switch gears and get to kind of really focus there, because I think that they're looking at some pipeline issues and some things like that too. And I would really love to work more closely with them. And I think that you have a great point in that bridge between like, well, the formulas already exist. How come we're not using that? And it's like, yeah, we should be, putting those two things together. And so I think Derek and I are actually going to start going to that group a little more consistently so that we can make that bridge happen. So
yeah, the challenge with that though is that formulas are kind of an example of community driven, those are managed largely by community members.
Yes.
And using them as a source of testing would sort of go against that philosophy. So I don't know. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if that's necessarily the best route to go or not. I don't know, but just something that I was thinking at based on the earlier discussion.
Sure.
You could just clone them and not influence development of those formulas at all.
True.
Yeah, I wonder also if maybe some sort of standardization on testing for salt might be prudent as well. I know there's Test Infra and Salt Check, and those are kitchen salt, whatever. Those are primary drivers that we use here. But as Eric pointed out, I mean, there's a lot of separate testing suites throughout those formulas, as well as throughout the internet for suggestions on testing salt. I wonder if maybe spending some time focusing on a standardization of testing suites would help. I mean, obviously, we don't want to stifle creativity or innovation around these testing suites, but at the same time, it does give a more a clear path to consumers on what they should be doing here.
Absolutely. I think having some standardization is a really good idea, just to have some focus, because we can do a little bit of all the things and never get anything done, or maybe we could focus and get something done, and that seems like a way to go.
While we're on this topic, I think it's worth noting that PyTest did land in aluminum, and we have switched to that being the test runner that we're using and the test suite that we're using. So there's been a lot of work done while moving to PyTest that will help with these topics that we're discussing.
Yes. Thanks, Daniel. Good point.
Do we need a round of applause? Absolutely, a round of applause.
Well, that applause should be directed to Pedro if we're.
It's true. Thank you, Pedro.
Thank you, Pedro.
Yes,
Pedro is to the right on my screen, so my hands were like right to him.
Although most commits are mine, I cannot be the single person having that round of applause. I started it. Yes, I'm pushing it because the rest of the team members are busy with other stuff. So we all should get a round of applause.
Go team. There's a lot of work that's been done there, and I think that's been really great. I don't know how that moves forward exactly with what we're talking about with release testing, but I think that sort of that over umbrella, it's helped with testing. So
yeah, it helps because on the process there was a PyTest plugin that was created which simplifies setting up a master and a minion, and likely topologies too, although we haven't quite stressed that side of it. But having this PyTest plugin allows anyone maintaining a custom state tree or a custom salt extension to use PyTest and set up their mini salt environment to test their code. While before, if they wanted to test something for salt, they would actually have to clone salt, copy their modules over or state tree or something like that, and then run the test suite. So this goes in line with that move because it will simplify testing all the things outside of salt.
Good point.
So just so I understand that, there's a PyTest plugin, did you say, that so people can just say, oh, here's PyTest, and then test it against, and then it'll spin up a master and a minion. They don't have to like clone salt at all. It'll just get the master
Precisely.
minion.
So the plugin is PyTest salt-factories. Granted, yes, documentation is lacking. Now that we are migrated to PyTest, I will have to focus a little bit on that so that people don't have to dig into code on how to use it. But its test suite is kind of self-explanatory if you're comfortable reading code. And for additional sources of examples, you have the salt test suite. And the PyTest focused testing is under tests/PyTests. So everything under there is using exclusively PyTest. And those are great examples there.
Cool.
And I think I know there was a blog post that we did, and we should probably do some more as we start really getting close to the aluminum release cycle. Getting close to it, getting to the end of the cycle. We should probably do another one. Yeah.
There's probably a good idea, like a blog post migrating an old integration test to PyTest. And the idea with the migration is this is how we would do it before, and someone who did that before would know, okay, then now I need to do this. So that would be an example. Something that I've also been doing, and that actually saved us 30 minutes running tests on Windows, is instead of integration testing, do functional testing. And so we migrated an integration test module, and that alone shaved off 30 minutes from a Windows CI build. So that's super awesome. In the future, as we move along, we will be migrating more and more. So it will be faster. But yeah, some blog posts exemplifying how that could be done and stuff like that would be quite useful, and we should definitely do it.
It's on our radar. Definitely have plans for that. That's great. I will actually take from this some action items for myself to make sure that we have 2 working groups, that those are more visible and that we get some more interest and evangelize those. One is on releasing and one is on testing, and that those 2 groups actually get together some. And I'll have more details about that soon, but I will take that up. And I look forward to having more updates about that soon. Anything else about releases or testing before I move on to what I've been displaying for a while, which is package updates? So we've had a lot of updates with packages as we've moved towards Tiamat, and as we've had some time to focus on how we're testing packages and some other just like more test infrastructure towards packages and how we're doing things and where those live with all the other changes. We have quite a few changes that have happened. So I did make a Slack channel that is salt-package-updates. So that's getting some GitHub notifications to it. And I did start just today a project board that is just based on the label of packaging within SALT. I may put some more things in there as well. There's a lot of changes there. And so I think we probably will make this a standing topic here at the open hour so that we can give this information to people. Let me actually just put this out there. Hang on just a second. This is a little bit small, so let me make it a little bigger. Here's this project board I just created today. I've got just a few tickets out there, a few issues that are stubbed out as packaging. And we want to make this just really visible. This is actually at the org level, and it should be public. I hope that people can all get there. Please let me know if you can't. I've made it public. Shouldn't be a problem. Bryce, do you want to go into any details here? Or does anybody have detailed questions or?
Just on that one that says HTTPS only repo, if people want to comment on their opinion on the best way to transition, that could be useful. I don't know how many people rely on HTTP access versus HTTPS. So anyway, VMware wants us to transition to an HTTPS only repo, since that's what all of their repos do.
Yeah, I brought that up this morning. I saw you created the issue after that. I've got a few more things on my side I need to finish up with my pipeline, and then I would be happy to sit down with you and discuss that, so that I can, like I said, make some informed suggestions on how we can handle that.
That'd be great.
Sounds good.
Imagine what we decide there will also have some implications on, eventually we need to redirect repo.saltstack.com to repo.saltproject.io because of branding. Anyway, we should probably discuss that as well. It's probably very similar answers on what we do.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll add an issue for that as well.
Thank you. Yeah, something that how a lot of this came up, and one of the reasons I made a project board for this is that I wanted to give it some visibility on things that we're even just thinking about, because something that I think that we're okay at, but we could be better at, and maybe have just sort of some longer lasting visibility towards, is what we're thinking about and then the decision that's been made on it. Like, oh, we had this idea, but it was terrible. So if we have that in an issue and we can document it there, and then we can close it out as something that we decided not to do, I think that that's a little more lasting, and we can then go back and see how we made that decision. Or if we decide to, or we decide some sort of amalgamation of what the original idea was. And so just trying to make that more visible and have those conversations. And of course, open to other ideas. Maybe it's not an issue board. Maybe it's something else. With our new website, we have a few ways we can have some discussions, and we can use the platforms that we already have, Slack and IRC and subreddits and Twitter and some of those things. Not always is that the appropriate place to have such a deep discussion about, maybe code or testing. And so I want to have it in the right place, but I want to make that a little more lasting. I think we have a lot of conversations, especially here in this open hour, that they get documented in some meeting notes, but that gets a little bit buried. And so I'm trying to do more to expose that and make that more transparent. All right. So this is just some basic information talking about working groups and clinics in general. So the working groups, I think I have every one of them on here. That is, clouds, formulas, test and release that needs some reviving, Mac OS and Windows that are really active, and then looking at some two that are new, security, and then the Salty Kubernetes. I don't think I missed any. It's been a busy morning. So I might have missed things. Forgive me if I have. And then the clinics, the test clinics that happen on Tuesday and Thursday, we do one later in the day and one earlier in the day so that we can try to catch people. And then the docs has been every other week, but I think we may actually be pausing that. We haven't had a lot of interest. So Derek, do I have that right?
Yeah, we may, after the docs jam, the docs, that group may just go on pause because yeah, there hasn't really been much. There's been a lot of interest in improving the docs, but it could be a thing about scheduling and other things with it, but we just haven't had. We've pretty much had to run it ourselves, mostly employees, and so.
It's true. Yeah, I guess I didn't even put it up here. That's just completely an oversight on my part because I put it down here. Going too fast. I should put it back up. I will. But I did have it on the first slide. We are doing that docs jam on February 10th. That is going to be really neat. Tom is going to come and speak in the middle of the day. And what they're doing is actually just really phenomenal. So even if you only have a chance to pop in, or if you only have a chance to see what they're working on, we'll get some information in the notes today and get it out to people. And there's a channel in Slack documentation that we've got some really great details there. And I think it's going to be awesome.
And a shout out to Alan Kugler on pretty much for most of that content. Well, pretty much all the content that's being migrated and converted over. We're just kind of reviewing and improving it as it gets shifted over into the SALT user guide. And honestly, too, if there are a variety of topics that are going to be in that user guide that later you've had, anyone in the community's had kind of extra comments they've wanted to include in the documentation on those subjects, that will be the repo going forward. We don't yet have the idea of kind of where it's going to get published on docs.saltproject.io just yet, but it currently gets published to just a localized GitLab pages of the repository itself for simplified viewing.
Yeah, and talking about docs, one of the things that's in the package project is to think about documentation around packaging really specifically, and maybe making a subdirectory in like Docs Hub, or maybe in GitLab or something where we already have a repo, but making it separate from the code base, but really detailing some of those like installations and how you use some of these packages. And I really like that idea. I think that would be really helpful in a lot of cases, especially as we're moving things around there and making a lot of changes. Maybe those start as blog posts. I'd be open to that as well. So this doesn't come through very well, the SALT enhancement proposals, because they are best looked at in the repository. Let me jump over there. Does anybody have any questions about any of the current SEPs? I know that we haven't focused on those as much, and they need some focus. I am planning to dedicate some time towards them myself, and I know Janae is as well. And we do have several out there.
Sorry, Sage, just really quick. I have an unrelated question.
Sure, sure.
Given that you've pushed back the CVE release dates, did you all remember to contact whoever has reserved the CVE number to make sure the embargo date needs to change?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I believe so anyway. But I'll check on that.
Yeah, that's super important.
Yeah, it is. But thank you for that. So some of these have been out here just a little while, and we're gonna really start to focus on them. I think that this one's still just hanging out here and needs to just be merged in. I will be focusing on this the next couple of weeks and giving it my attention. And hopefully you'll see some movement here.
Did you guys solve the running it as a service issue that Megan has? I have spoken to Megan about in the past.
I think that we did. Is Megan on? I don't know that Megan's on.
No, she's not on, but right now all the tests are passing, so we believe everything is good to go with Tiamat.
It's outstanding.
Yes, I think we did. We had a interesting discussion during a planning meeting where I think that we discovered that things were actually working that we were further along than we thought. And so that was actually good news.
Yeah, I mean, we've been running Tiamat built binaries assault for over a month now, really, as services. So I know that there was discussion on how best to handle that within the SALT code itself. I still, unless work has been done to the daemonization code of SALT, I still think that there's more work that could be done there,
Probably.
as that's where the issue primarily pokes its head up.
Did you get it solved that the RPM scripts were saying that they provide libraries when they actually are in the wrong place? I'm pretty sure that still needs fixed on the SALT repo. I was just curious if you had run into that.
Well, no, we also use FPM to build our RPMs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you don't need to split out.
No, I ship a single RPM with SALT as a single binary, and then I run the services out of that binary. So it's just one thing to distribute.
Cool.
Yeah, I think things are working. I don't know that much has changed there. I would need Megan to talk about that. Maybe we can get you some details, Randy.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So other questions, just open up the floor to any question. Comments, concerns, snail jokes. Is anybody having particularly good weather?
Arizona's having great weather.
It was reasonable
9 degrees
here.
yesterday.
Wow. It was reasonable here, but it's gonna like rain this afternoon or something. It's pretty gross and cold.
I had a question about interval maps on beacons.
Sure.
I noticed that when refreshing pillars or pushing high states, the interval maps for my beacons are resetting, and I was wondering if this is known, if this is intended, or if there's a way around this. And one of the issues is the way that I'm running some of my beacons is ostensibly I could be running them, let's say, once every 4 to 8 hours. But however, with such a large counter on my interval timer, there's a high chance that they would be refreshed. The interval timers internal, the interval map would be refreshed, and so the count would begin from 0 again, and could possibly never hit the 4-hour window or 8-hour window.
That sounds like something we need to issue open for. It's not something I've seen anything about and that I recall. So if you could open a detailed issue with that, it'd be great. It'd help us dive in and see what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just to be clear, just so I heard it right, you have a bunch of beacons that you have configured, and then you have intervals between 4 and 8 hours. Was that right?
Yeah, it's one of the concerns in the way that we're planning some of our upcoming features for our internal network config. There's just some things, data we care about, but it's not going to change very often. So we just have, you know, really slow, we want to put in really slow checks on it. So 8 hours is, you know, that's a very conceivable feature that we're looking for in terms of times of re-ups. So, and I'm just afraid that that will never hit because the internal timing is reset.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. As Diwa said, that definitely sounds like a bug.
Okay. Yeah, because I guess that's the other thing I wanted to find out was if that was intentional. It sounds like it's not. So, how do I open up? So sorry, I don't know how to do that next part. How do I open up an issue? Is there like a doc that I could just read and on how to do that?
Yeah, we actually have a template
Oh.
in GitHub in the SALT repo. I can send you just some really quick instructions if you'd like, or maybe I can even link you.
Okay.
Let's see. Just put it in the chat here. So this is this takes you to choose which issue template you want to use, and it's just the top one, bug report, and that'll just walk you through it. If you have questions, feel free to ask us on Slack or anything. It's pretty much it.
The biggest thing is just to remember, you know, as you're filling it out, just imagine that the other person knows nothing about SALT, and so just give them, you know, this is what needs to be in this file, and these are the commands that I ran. This is the output I got. This is what I expected to happen, and this is what happened instead. The template should be pretty good about guiding you through that, but the I mean, you don't need to be overly verbose, but you know, there's a minimum level of verbosity that's useful.
Yeah, no, I that totally makes sense. I totally get that. Yeah, bug reports are only as useful as your ability to track down the bug.
Yes.
Yeah. And you could sanitize things as needed, of course, but what information you can give us, you know, in states and things, and you know, on your beacons, it'd be great. You know, the more you can give us, the better. And we'll get that triaged and dive in. It doesn't sound like that's working right, so I'd love to know.
It sounds like I mean, one of my engineers may have actually even found where in the salt/minion.py,
oh yeah,
he at least made a recommendation as one place that could be changed.
That's great.
To address the issue.
Yeah, that would be fantastic to add onto that issue as well. Because even if it's not the right place, at least it will give somebody a chance.
Starting point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, happy to do that.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. I appreciate it.
Cool.
Other questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, sorry. No, I'm done.
No, you're good. No, thank you for that. Thanks for bringing that up. I think that's great. Love to hear from more people. Any other questions or concerns that we can answer? I really appreciate people being here today, and I set aside this time and take it very seriously because I think that it's a great way for us to come together with a community and be a part of this amazing community. And I look forward to it each week. And I hope everybody else does. I hope that we're getting enough information out to get people here. I think that's getting better, and we'll continue to work on that. And if nobody has anything else, we'll go ahead and adjourn. Thank you guys for being here. And have a happy Thursday.
Thank you. Happy
Cheers.
Thursday.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye, everyone.